Hello, Tech Pros, episode 239. Welcome to the podcast where we explore the opportunities, challenges, and anxieties that technical professionals and techpreneurs face when building their career, building their products, and building their business. This show is about the people behind technology and the mindsets and skill sets they developed that led to their success. You can learn more about this podcast and our guests at hellotechpros.com and about overcoming social anxiety at anxietynerd.com. All right, let's get started. Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostic, and I'm excited to be here on episode number 4 of our 5-part series called The Five Dysfunctions of a Software Development Team. Now, a lot of these principles, I think, really apply to technology teams in general, but I come from a software development background, and so my emphasis here is on software development teams. This entire series is modeled after the book by Patrick Lencioni called The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. I highly recommend that book to anyone, regardless of what position you're in, if you're in a leadership position or if you're in a contributor position, if you're in a big company or small company, if you're starting a startup, what have you. It's a fantastic book in a Fable format, so it's not like a really dry textbook. It starts with a story, a fable of this fictional company and these fictional characters that have all these leadership problems and problems on their team and problems with productivity. And so Patrick, throughout that book, really uncovers these 5 dysfunctions of a team. So this is part 4 in our 5-part series, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Software Development Team. And we've talked about a lot of great stuff. If you missed the other 4 episodes, you can go to hellotechpros.com/team. That's hellotechpros.com/team to get access to all 5 episodes, including the show notes and all the takeaways. Now, this particular episode, this particular topic, the 4th dysfunction of a software team, it's man, I was thinking about it earlier this morning, and you know what? The topic today just irks me. It really annoys me. It frustrates me, and it honestly, I'm just kind of like halfway pissed off right now. And I was debating on whether or not I should go take a chill pill and like chill out for a little bit before I come back and record this episode. But I'm like, you know what? No. F that. We're going to do it live. I'm going to do it while my frustrations are at its maximum right now, because I want you to hear the frustration and the emotion in my voice. Maybe it will spur you into action. Maybe it will cause some disagreement and you will flame me in my Slack channel. Perfect. Awesome. Whatever. I want to get some feedback from you guys and gals, no matter if you agree or disagree. So let's dive right into it. So in Patrick Lencioni's book, his 4th dysfunction of a software development team, his 4th dysfunction of a team is the avoidance of accountability. His was the avoidance of accountability. And he talks about how ducking the responsibility to call peers on counterproductive behavior kind of sets low standards throughout the group. I don't think we suffer from that. I don't think in the software development world, at least in the teams that I've been in, that people are just really, really hesitant to call peers out on bad behavior or counterproductive work ethics. I've seen teams where you've got 1 or 2 bad apples and there's a potential to spoil the group. But you know what? I don't see the other team members just sitting around going, "Oh my gosh, how come Tommy never writes any code all day? All he does is surf Reddit, right? And he never does anything, and nobody ever calls him out on that stuff." I've never seen that. Like, somebody is holding people accountable. Somebody is calling people out. Maybe it's difficult for us. Maybe we're want to just escalate it in private, or we want to go talk to him in private. But I've never been on a team where people are just unaccountable and they're avoiding accountability. Maybe you have that problem on your team. I don't know, but I never have. So I think, just in my humble experience in software development, we don't have that issue of avoidance of accountability. However, I feel very, very strongly that we do have this problem, and it's the avoidance of leadership. The avoidance of leadership is a very strong, very pervasive problem throughout the software development industry that I think is destroying a lot of teams or holding teams back from not getting to the next level in the team's goal and in the individuals' careers and goals. Here's the problem, is that we look to certain individuals to be the leader, to be the boss. There's so many people that want somebody else to step up and just take charge because we like bitching about having a horrible boss. We like having somebody to complain about or to complain to about the problems. But there's certain issues with being a leader that there's a lot of software developers that absolutely avoid. And here's a few reasons why software developers really are avoiding being leadership. Now, this is absolutely coming firsthand from me because I was that software developer who for years and years said there's no way in hell you're going to get me to go into management or to be a team lead or to do whatever because of there's a lot of different reasons, and I'm going to cover a lot of them in this episode. But when I share my frustrations in this episode, don't think that I'm picking on you. Don't think that I'm harshing on you, and I'm belittling other software developers who leadership is not their goal. That's fine. I understand. But I'm picking on myself from back in the day, and I'm also I want to hold other people up and say, hey, you don't have to be a manager. You don't have to be the boss to be a leader. And we'll talk about that through this episode here. So first of all, why do people avoid leadership, especially software developers? Well, there's a huge time commitment in being a leader. And the first thing is that, we don't want that administrative burden. We don't want that time burden, and we don't want to lose our tech skills. Let me kind of break those down one at a time. The time burden is real. Hashtag real life being a technology person, regardless of if you're in software development or if you're in SharePoint administration or if you're in anything else, right? If you're a Redis administrator, dude, you've got so little time on your hands because you're trying to keep all the things working. You're trying to get all the tasks done. You're trying to be highly productive. And getting that stuff done in an individual contributor manner, just being responsible for your own tasks, is a full-time plus job, meaning there's most of you folks out there that are putting in well above your 40-hour a week normal, right? Your normal is about 60 hours a week because you're staying late, you're taking some work home, you're doing some stuff on the weekend, you're watching the servers, at night when you're at the bar, but you're constantly checking email and constantly checking, the statuses of things to see how it's going. You're doing a lot of work, and any more burden that gets put on you is frustrating because then you're potentially dropping balls. Like when somebody says, hey, can you do this other thing on top of all the 10,000 other things that you're doing right now? You're like, I can barely keep up with what I've got. So when it comes down to picking and choosing what you want to do, there's a lot of you guys and girls out there that are just like, you know what, this leadership stuff, I ain't got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. I'm trying to keep the world running. I'm trying to keep the software cranking. I'm trying to keep the servers up and running and not have the world fall off around me. And I feel like I'm just barely keeping it all together as is. The second thing is the time commitment, meaning that if we were able to balance things and just keep the servers running, just keep the code coming out, but not as much as we used to, there's a lot of our time that goes into research and into R&D and into reading blogs and listening to podcasts. And if there's another responsibility, like leadership is a huge responsibility, if there's that on us as well, it may start taking up all of our extra time, where right now we're putting, 40 to 60 hours into just keeping our jobs running, and then we're probably putting another 5 to 10 to 20 to 40 hours a week on keeping up with the latest and greatest, right? Just sharpening our tools and sharpening our skill set and just learning the next thing, because the world is evolving all around us so fast. Technology is evolving so quickly all around us that it's all we can do to keep up. So we don't want to lose our tech skills. We don't want to say, okay, I want to move into management and I want to start leading the team and I want to start, challenging people to rise up and I want to help them with their people problems. I want to do all that stuff, because then all of a sudden we lose our tech skills And honestly, I have done that. I am a victim of that. I do not have the tech skills, the coding skills that I once had. Once I got into full-time leadership, full-time management, and in my case, it started as a team lead, and as a team lead, I was doing like 50-50 writing code and leading the teams and going to all the management meetings and administrative stuff. That was very difficult, and I started kind of falling behind on my tasks. And then once I went full-time into leadership, it was a literally full-time plus job just to do all that, just to do all the people, manage all the people problems, and manage all the project expectations, and manage all the stakeholders outside of the project. That is a full-time plus job that, for me, required all of my attention. And when all of my attention was there, then I was just writing code on nights and weekends for fun, for hobby, and my skills have slowly degraded. Now, it would be really, really tough for me to kind of build those back up, right? It's a muscle that I haven't used. Writing code is a muscle that I haven't used much in a long time. And so there's this fear, there's this pervasive fear that I don't have time to do this kind of stuff. All my job is going to fail, and my tech skills are going to fail if I do this. The other problem is the people problem, right? We, as technology experts, are experts at solving rational problems, and people problems are absolutely irrational. They're emotional, and they don't come with a debugger, right? When you're trying to resolve a personality problem between Luke and Leia, right? And I'm just pulling names out of a hat because I'm looking up here at my Star Wars posters, right? But when you're trying to resolve a problem between two individuals, that situation doesn't come with a debugger, and there's no right and wrong answer. It's just like, guys, get back to work and do your thing. But the guys and girls, or the two guys or the two girls, or the whatever, the two people or the three people or the 30 people are having emotional reactions, right? They're having fight, flight, freeze responses based off of the emotions that are inside of them. And that is really challenging and is really tough. And then the third reason why we avoid leadership is because, honestly, a fear of failure. I talked about before the fear of, I'm going to fail at my code because I don't have time to do the code and the leadership at the same time. But there's also the fear of, who's going to listen to me? Like, literally, who is going to do what I say? I ain't the boss, and if they gave me the boss title, like, who would listen to me? Who would follow me? There's this imposter syndrome. The imposter syndrome when you're a software developer, when you're a technical expert. There's also the imposter syndrome of leadership. We think, I am not cut out for it. For the longest time, I believed that when you were born, yourself was kind of defined, kind of like a character sheet in Dungeons and Dragons, right? I played D&D a lot. I played a lot of other role-playing games a lot. And at the beginning, when you're first creating your character, what do? Right? The DM or the game master says, okay, roll for stats, roll for your attributes. And you have, at least in D&D, you have strength, constitution, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. And these are things that your character is kind of quote-unquote born with. They're the attributes that your character is quote-unquote born with and that just has at the beginning of the game. And I thought that, hey, charisma, i.e. leadership, i.e. talking to people, is the same thing. Like, when I rolled my character of Chad Bostic when I was born, I rolled a 3 on charisma. That's what I thought, right? I thought I rolled like a 3, and I had like a -5 attribute in charisma. And there's no way that I could ever do leadership. Like, I could barely talk to people. I had the social anxiety. I didn't call it social anxiety at the time, but just like talking to people in general, let alone leading them and trying to influence them, trying to persuade them, trying to get people together to do a certain task or do a certain action or follow a certain method. That would freak me out throughout the beginning of my career because I thought that it was just an attribute that you were either born with or you weren't. You either have it or you don't. So all of these things are kind of valid and kind of not valid. Man, I understand why so many people don't want to do it, don't want to do the leadership because of these problems. But let me tell you of why you need to think about it, why you need to focus on it, why you need to consider leadership. First of all, you don't have to be a manager to be a leader. A leader is just someone who pulls people together, who gets people moving in a single direction, or in a kind of sort of single direction, right? Software developers are like cats. We're very independent. We do our own thing. We might come together in a spirit of playfulness. A lot of times we come together just for cat fights. But it's very hard to wrangle cats. It is very hard to get cats all moving in a single direction. But that's what a leader is. You don't have to be a manager to be a leader. You just have to try to get people to come together and start moving in a direction. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share with you 7 ideas, 7 ways that you can start being a leader without being a manager. Okay, so number 1 is just start organizing and hosting recurring tech talks. Like in a workplace prior, I started putting together, every Friday the boss would say, hey, I'm going to bring pizza in because I want everybody to eat pizza and sit around and hang out together. And that was fantastic. And after 3 or 4 weeks, it was just like, okay, we get together and everybody's going nom, 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 nom. And nobody's talking because, well, we just kind of chat whenever, but there's a lot of awkward silences. So, hey, why not use this opportunity to have a tech talk? I'll get up in front of the whiteboard and I'll start diagramming some things that I've learned this week and so forth, and then start inviting other people next week and the week afters to contribute to these tech talks. And I've seen it done in other companies as well, where it's not the manager getting up there and saying, hey, developers, let's all put these tech talks together. It's for each other. It's for one another. You can be the most junior person on your team and still organize tech talks. You can be the intern that's just getting started, and you can be the leader that organizes the tech talks. All it is first volunteering that you have something to share. And if nothing else, you have something to share. You're going to give a talk on what you've learned over the summer or what you've learned in your 300 level courses in college or whatever it is. You're going to share that. Some people will come. And then after that, you go, hey, let's do this more often. Regardless of if you learned anything or not, the fellowship, the getting together, the communicating, the just being together and sharing information to one another is helpful and it's valuable. Do you guys and gals agree or disagree? If everybody agrees, or if 3 or 4 people agree, great, let's do it again. Who can present next week? And people, do I have to give a present? No, you don't have to present. You don't have to put a PowerPoint presentation together. Nobody wants that. Just kind of talk. Let's talk about whatever topic. Maybe it's not a single person gets up. Maybe it's a round table. Maybe it's a discussion group tech talk instead of a presentation tech talk. There's a lot of different ways to do it. But just be that person, be that volunteer that stands up and says, I'll do it. Let's start this. I think it would be fun. I think it would be good. The second thing that you can do is survey the team. So a leader is a person that knows what's going on in the team. A leader is the person who knows the frustrations that a team has or the opportunities that a team has that they're not yet working on. So survey the team and ask them, what's on your mind? What could we improve around here? How is the process broken? How is the process excellent? What's in our SDLC, or what in our Agile framework, or what in general can we do around here a little bit better? Maybe we're fantastic, we're awesome, but we're not ultimately awesome, right? But what are the things that we can do to kind of level up on here a little bit? Once you start having those discussions, once you survey the team, you're probably going to see 2 or 3 things that come up over and over again. Maybe it's in different wording, maybe it's in a different format, but there's a lot of people that are going to have the same ideas on some of the same frustrations over and over again. Once those start coming up, then the third thing that you can do is pick an internal project that would benefit the team, and then go to management, get buy-in to work on that, and then get help from other team members and start working on the internal project. Maybe it is an internal tool set that your team has been using for years, but it's clunky, it's old, it's painful, like you don't want to do it anymore. Like people are very hesitant. They're trying to find workarounds. People are not following the process. And it's like, look, if we could just refactor this tool, this internal tool that we all have and we all use, or some of us use, if we could refactor that brings in all of the best ideas from the people who are frustrated with it, then maybe we could get a more consistent process. Maybe we could get people to follow the process more consistently. It also, the number 2, surveying your team, and number 3, picking an internal project, is going to show management that you care about the team, right? It's not just about like, hey, doing something for myself or doing something that's fun. It's also about, hey, let's improve the team. And if I can get the team more productive, then that's a win-win, right? We get to refactor a tool that everybody hates using, and we also get to improve the productivity of your team. And management is going to see that. They're going to appreciate that, regardless of if your career goal is to move into a tech lead position or into a management position. Perfect. That's going to help you get there. If your goal is to not move into a tech lead position or a management position, this gives you a lot of power, right? You say, hey, I can influence the team. I can help the team without being a tech lead, without being a manager. Just let me do this kind of stuff. I'm good at this. I love this. It's helpful to the team. The team appreciates it. You appreciate it. The team's more productive. Now, stop asking me to move into management. I'm just going to do this kind of stuff. And I guarantee you some of your managers and your leaders are going to go, you know what? That's awesome. I really appreciate all the extra effort you've put in. Man, we are more productive because you've done this. That's fantastic. The fourth thing that you can do is start a cleanup detail. and you could look at this as a couple of different ways. You could look at it as, hey, the kitchen is a mess. Like the fridge is, it's disgusting. Who knows what's growing in there? And the sink is constantly piled up, and this place just kind of looks like a pigsty. It looks like a frat house. We don't want to live here. We don't want to work here. Come on, let's get a cleanup crew to clean this place up. You can absolutely do that, or you could clean up your own internal house, meaning your software house, meaning like your GitHub repo. Oh my gosh, every organization that I've worked at, there was a lot of legacy code in, regardless if you're using GitHub, if you're using TFS, if you're using Subversion, regardless of what framework you're using for your code repository, it's a mess. Every place that I've worked, it's a mess. And there's a lot of legacy stuff out there that is not following the current conventions, the naming conventions, or the branching and merging conventions, or the whatever it is, whatever conventions you have. Or maybe there is no convention. Gosh, I've worked there too. I'm not going to name names, but I've worked in places where there was absolutely no convention. It was cowboy coding. Take that and then put it in a source repo, and it's just everybody and everything that could possibly be done, it was done different ways. And so without a standard, it's just complete chaos, and it's impossible to find anything. Start a cleanup crew where you go through your version control system and start cleaning it up. Look for places where there could be standards. There could be old legacy projects that could be archived, that could be shelved, they could be deleted, right? Look for places where there's a lot of traction, there's a lot of action, there's a lot of working in some of these repositories, but they're not consistent. And some places you need differences in process and differences in structure because of certain XYZ on the project, some specifics on the project, but other places you could be more consistent. Just start a cleanup crew to go through and, decide on a process, decide on a standard, and go put those standards in place. Let's see, the next thing that you can do is host a monthly or quarterly or annually, whatever, social club. Start a social club that gets people together, not talking about the technology. This is different than the recurring tech talks. This is for social activities. And support diversity. There's a lot of us who are into our thing, right? And I might say, hey, let's start an RPG group. Let's start a D&D group. Let's start a board game group. And that would be cool and that would be fun. And I bet I could get a lot of buy-in from a lot of other software developers or a lot of other people in the team, in the organization. But If we just do that, right? If we're just playing D&D every week, then all of a sudden the mission statement of having a social club kind of devolves into our normal gaming group that gets together, our board gaming group, or our gun club, or our golf club, or our whatever it is, right? So think about hosting a social club that supports diversity and supports family and supports whoever your family is, whether you have college roommates or whether you have a spouse and kids or not. But look at hosting some sort of social club that gets people together in a non-technical environment, in a diverse environment that supports bringing people together and just talking and socializing and meeting one another and understanding, what people care about outside of the office. The next thing that you could do is organize a volunteer activity. I have had a lot of fun and a lot of personal rewards by being a volunteer that goes out where someone else was the leader and organized it, and also myself organized volunteer activities. Big ones for me are group activities where we can all go do something, like some physical activity where we can sweat and we can push brooms around and we can load food trucks, we can build houses. These activities get us outside of the office, number one, gets us to use other muscles, meaning like swinging a hammer or swiping a paintbrush or loading carts, loading boxes. Physical activity can kind of break up the normal. And also, you get to work as a team in outside of your normal environment. And when you take people outside of their normal environment and you put them on, like, we went to the food bank. We did very often food bank and Habitat for Humanity, both great causes. In different cities, different locations have different kind of food bank organizations. So look for something in your local area. But when you get people out of the office, when you get people out of their normal roles of being a software architect or being a database administrator or being the team lead, when you get people outside of that environment and you put them in, hey, we're all a group and we all have to figure out the most efficient way in order to load these food boxes so that we can get them on the truck, because we don't want to get just 20 boxes loaded today. We want to get 20 pallets loaded today. How can we do that? All of a sudden, there's ideas coming out. There's people starting to act as leaders in order to get that task done that aren't necessarily managers. It's just a fantastic, and plus you get the reward of helping people that need that help. That's outside of your normal day-to-day job. It's great. Absolutely organize a food bank, Habitat for Humanity, some other kind of volunteer activity. Is going to help you out a lot, and it's going to help out somebody else. The seventh thing, the final thing, is a Toastmasters group. Now, this is something that you can do inside your organization. You can bring in Toastmasters and say, hey, can you guys come and present to us, regardless, and it doesn't have to be Toastmasters. It can be some other leadership type group. If your city or if your the location where you live doesn't have Toastmasters, just look at a leader from another organization. Can we bring in a guest speaker and talk to us about leadership outside of software development? Can we get somebody from the manufacturing space? Can we get somebody from the healthcare space? Can we get someone outside, or maybe it's a business partner in the company that you work for? Like if you work for a big organization that's not a tech organization, if you work in hospitality, you work in energy, you work in medical, look for someone else in the organization that's not in the IT department, not in the technology department, not in the software development department, and say, hey, can you come in and talk to us about leadership? We would love to learn more. Or if you have accessibility to Toastmasters is a great place where you can go, you can practice your leadership, you can practice your charisma, your speaking skills, and you can just network with a wide variety of people who are all trying to build their careers and build their businesses as well. So hopefully I've convinced some of you guys and girls that, you know what, being a leader is not about being a manager. You don't have to be a boss. You can have a high impact, a lot of value on your team without having that title and without having to necessarily commit 50% or 100% of your time into people problems instead of technical problems. You can still be a strong software developer and start being a leader at the same time. In my opinion, when people start doing these things, when software developers start focusing on leadership in these areas that I've told you about, tech talks or surveying the team, picking internal projects, starting to clean up detail, getting people together outside of work in more of a social club, volunteering, and then learning from other leaders in other industries. What it does is it levels up the whole team, and the whole team starts thinking about a broader impact other than their own little function, their own little module, their own little code that they're trying to write, right? There's a lot of folks that are like, look, all I do is reskin the date time picker for our app. That's all. That's what I've been doing for the last year and a half, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. It's like, this thing won't die. I have no impact on the broader team. This is your way to have a bigger, broader impact on the team other than just reskinning that date time picker that you're continuously working on. You can be a leader and you can have a bigger, broader impact on the team. You don't need to be a manager to do that. And then you get to pick when you start learning that skill and working on that skill. Like I said before, it's not a D&D attribute where you either have it or don't. It's something that you might be naturally a little bit better than other people, but a lot of it is about the intentionality, and about the effort that you put into working it, just like a muscle, right? Just like gaining strength or getting faster. Leadership is a muscle that you can practice. And in my opinion, it's a very valuable muscle that we all need to work a little harder. All right, next Wednesday is going to be the final episode of the 5 Dysfunctions of a Software Team. Again, if you want to get access to all 5 episodes, including, I've got some free takeaways, like I'm going to have these, the 7 things that you can do to start being a leader, like in a one-pager that you can pin up on your office wall or tack to your monitor. Go to hellotechpros.com/team. That's hellotechpros.com/team to get access to all the episodes, all the show notes, and all the free giveaways. And until next time, take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/239. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by you, the audience. Instead of looking for new corporate sponsors, I've decided to adopt a pay-per-value model. What that means is you decide on how much I get paid. If you're just browsing and have yet to get value out of the show, don't feel obligated to pay a darn thing. However, if this podcast does its intended job of helping you build your career, build your products, or build your business, consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon. Pick the level of recurring donation that matches the level of value you get out of the show, or make a one-time sponsorship for that big aha moment that have helped turn things around for you. Become a sponsor today at patreon.com/hellotechpros or visit hellotechpros.com/sponsor. If this episode helped you out in any way, please leave a review on iTunes and let me know what you thought. iTunes reviews helps our rankings, which helps us grow the Hello Tech Pros podcast to a broader audience, which helps more technical professionals and techpreneurs build their career, build their products, and build their businesses. If you are a subscriber and get repeat value out of the show, consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon. The information on this podcast is free to everyone, but I'm giving you the opportunity to pay for the value you get out of it, starting as little as $1 a month. Pledge your support today at patreon.com/hellotechpros or visit hellotechpros.com/sponsor.